Welcome to Mandula. We humbly invite you on a journey with us as we explore and deep dive in what it means to be human through this great time of awakening, generously sharing wisdom and practical tools that have helped us on our path of ascension, introducing other conscious leaders within our community to expand the collective mind to new possibilities.
Mandula inspires us to become balanced in body and soul, feminine and masculine, physical and spiritual, creating a bridge between heaven and earth. Within this podcast, we will be communicating with all parts of ourselves, understanding our true essence, discovering our life's calling, transforming and healing ourselves and the people around us. Without further ado, let us begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of Mandula. I'm Katrina Allen. This is Katrina McKechnie. And today we're laughing because we're like, what are we actually talking about today? We have mulled through a couple of themes and discussions before we go on here, and we're just going to have a conversation and see what comes out of it. What I do know is that we will get clarity in our conversation, because we always do, and that's our intention. But each episode we tend to go through the chakras, and this, we're on episode 3 of season 2, and so we are on the solar plexus, which, for those who don't know what that means, it's the power center. That's where our confidence comes from. That's where our self-worth comes from, self-love, where we get most of our energy. For me personally, it's where I make my decisions from. It's when I know if I'm on course or if I'm not on course. I literally get this fire in my belly, and that tells me 100% of the time in each moment where I'm at and what needs to occur. So it's actually my favorite chakra out of all of them.
We're also in the sacral because it's Tuesday in the week, so there's 7 days a week.
Yeah,
so it'll be a combination of that, that sacral authority where you're in creation energy, and it's like that vibrant orange color as well. So that will always be interlinked into whatever we're doing as well. So that feels fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like where creativity and play and ideas and all of that comes from. So,
well, based on what we just talked about, what I have really got clear on better than ever in this moment is that when I thrive in life and when I'm doing the uttermost best in everything is when I am in a bubble. We talked about this earlier. Is when I can put myself in a bubble and literally drown out and detach myself from whatever else is going on in my life. And in that moment and in that bubble, whether I'm having a conversation with someone, whether I'm by myself, whether I'm mulling over my own thoughts, if I can stay truly present to who I am, what's important to me in that moment, discarding what I can feel going on from anyone else, that is when I thrive. That is when I get clarity. That is when I know moment by moment what's in my heart, how I can achieve what I want to achieve, how I can feel fulfilled, satisfied, connected, whatever it is. That is my most powerful ability. Am I there 100%? No. But that is what, now knowing this, I can work on being there 100%.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And what actually just came through then was a memory actually of when, not that I love to meditate anyway, but I used to keep myself busy all the time, and I never understood what this, busy program was for, because in my mind I was like, no, I want the opposite. Like, I just want to be able to stop and relax. But I couldn't actually get there, and the reason why was there was so much actual discomfort with being with self. So I think before you can actually get to a place of enjoying your own bubble and your own energy, I think that there's like a lot to be said around whether you can sit still and be with self and what actually comes up in that.
And knowing yourself enough to know what's truly important to you. So the examples that were coming to my mind to kind of help people understand what I'm talking about a little bit more, and from where I've come from to where I am now, I know myself pretty well. And we talked about this again before we came on here. What Katrina and I are very aligned with and the same with is that the most important thing to us is our kids and our family and being mums. Like, we've both achieved a lot in this lifetime, but you won't really hear us talking as much about those things as what you will about our kids in our home, because that is our absolute hearts. And for us, that's the highest priority. But what I have achieved on this topic is that I used to, when I'd say we're out in public and I'm having a conversation with my son, I was so aware of who was around that I would find that I would have that conversation maybe a little bit trying to please the people. Like, I'm a really, like, almost trying to prove I was a good mum, right? Yeah. Like, I would kind of be myself, but not talk to him like I would at home behind closed doors. And so he would react to it not in a very good way, because I get it now. I didn't understand then. I thought it was being a little poo-poo head. But he was going, Mum, you're not being yourself right now. Like, what are you trying to prove? He was my feedback all the time. And now it does not matter. And I've been really conscious to this for probably weeks now, and I'm really proud. It does not matter who we are around, who's observing us, what is going on. I am in my bubble with my son or my daughter or my husband or my family or anyone. And I care about that connection and that conversation being so authentic and what we're talking about being prioritized, that I don't give a shit who's listening. Like, if they get to observe how awesome our relationships are and how we co-create together and how we communicate, then that's a blessing for them, because we've worked bloody hard at that. And I'm really proud of, not all the time, we're still working on it, but generally speaking, there's so much respect and love and equality within our relationships that, sweet, if people can listen, they can listen, but if not, my bubble is my bubble. And that is the most important thing.
And I think that kind of comes back to something that we were exploring in our conversation a little earlier, as well as being all of it, right? And when we can get really solid on, sometimes we need to show up in our darkness with our children to actually, get across or penetrate the ego of whatever situation is occurring. And then sometimes it can be light and fluffy, and it's like when you can get really comfortable with knowing that you're doing it always from a healthy place, and that you're consciously choosing that conversation but actually not holding back. So typically, like, if you were out and about, like, I don't even know, look, I don't know where it was from, but I have heard this saying quite often. It's like, who are you when you're behind closed doors? And it's like, because typically you're more what you would have deemed as unhealthy aspects of yourself when you're losing it at your kids, and then you're out, say, having a coffee, and you're like, oh, stop doing that. And you're like talking under your breath, as opposed to just being who you are in the home. It's like, but when you can actually get really healthy with the medicine of which all the aspects are allowed to be, like the dark and the light, because they're both powerful, then I think that you don't filter that anymore, and you are able to go out in the public because you've already accepted and loved it within self. And you're doing it for the right reason, and it's coming from a really healthy place in you, and you know your children better than anything. And I think that's the sacral, right? It's like that womb intelligence of, like, knowing that however the situation needs to be communicated about, that you are safe to do so however that shows up.
And that comes down to the core of it is doing everything you do for self, right? Then it doesn't matter whether you're behind closed doors, who's around. Like, none of it matters, because you're being who you are for yourself and for yourself only. And that in itself is like, we could close the podcast off now, because that is the answer to everything. And this is what I just absolutely preach this to my kids. It's that you are your business card. I've probably already said that on here before, because that's my absolute thing. You are your business card. So every interaction that you have with people, every creation that you do, everything you put out into the world, how you dress every day, all of it is, it's you. That's your bubble, right? And you will never have to worry about business in life if you are proud of moment by moment who you are, as long as you're being authentic to who you are and you're doing it for the right reasons. Like, for you. If you feel good, you can't get it wrong. If you're not feeling good, there's something going astray.
And again, like, I'm going to bring it back to, like, I don't know that everybody knows who they are yet. Like, and I think that these are the things that, like, we would encourage you to explore, because I haven't always known who I authentically am. And in fact, I'm doing courses right now where I'm learning new parts of my human design, and some of it, but most of it, I'm like, oh my God, of course. Yeah, that is what I love. And it's like, it's seeing myself through a different lens, but exploring myself through a different lens of who I am and how I show up authentically me, and getting really freaking clear on that. It's like another layer of that. But actually, like, I could probably say 7 years ago, I was absolutely not being myself at all. Like, who I was 7 years ago, I don't think I was, not in all areas, solid and confident in who I am. Communicating about the, like, how much we value the home, and I'm so passionate about that. Yet if I was outside of the home, I would not bring it up in conversation, even though it was the thing that, like, lit me up and my drive and my passion and what I'm here to do. I would worry about how other people would feel about that if I communicated to it. So I would, like, shelter that authentic part of myself.
Yeah. Well, I think a simple solutions to what you just said of people not knowing who they are is, one, going back to what I just said, if it doesn't feel right, if you don't feel amazing after being in your bubble of who you are, then there's something off with who you are, right? Maybe you are showing up in a way that you thought that's who you are because you've been conditioned that that's a good girl, that's what you're supposed to do. But if it feels wrong, then there's something off. So investigate that and get curious. So yeah, if it feels off. And then also, how can we possibly find, and we've talked about this a million times and I'm going to go back to it, how can we possibly find completely who we are, or all aspects of ourselves, if we're not doing things that are different? So if we are living in the mundane life every single day, then how are we possibly going to find different parts of ourselves? And this is where, again, if I go back to that bubble of moment by moment being who you are and living for yourself, then what you'll find is that you start making new choices. Like, for example, I was like, last week, you guys would have listened to us talk about the cyclone, totally different topic now. We're through that. It was a long week, but it was a long week because I went into this, the weather's crap, what am I going to do? And I went into this, like, toxic, not knowing what to do with myself thing, right? Once I reset and came back into my bubble, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to paint. I don't paint. Last night I was like, I'm going to paint. Ooh. And I started, I'm not going to show you the result of that, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
right?
That's all that matters.
I enjoyed it. And I was like, I started to tune into different things that I might want to try without obligation, right? Yeah. What I loved about it was that I actually didn't give a shit what it ended up. Like, I wasn't going to put it on social media, and I wasn't going to put it out to the world like I'm claiming to be a painter. I was just like, I'm just going to freely have fun with this, with no expectation. And it was like meditation for me. I absolutely loved it, right? Yeah. But it was like, that's where inspiration comes of what else is next and what else and who else could I be. Maybe painting wasn't 100% it, but I liked this aspect of it. And then that's where we get to investigate more areas and then answer the question of, who are we, right? Who are we? What do we enjoy? What's not sort of our things? Or how can we have the confidence to sign up for anything, to give it a go, if we're not going to make it mean anything about us if we don't nail it the first go? Yeah, definitely. Like, I absolutely want to always be exploring other areas. I was having a conversation with my husband about aging and getting old, and I'm like, I absolutely cannot even fathom being like most of the retired people that I know in my reality now. I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I want to be able to come to my grandchildren when I'm older with stories of, like, adventures that I'm still having, like, that I'm like, maybe I will get into different hobbies when I'm older. But I think that, like,
it's, oh, you actually said it a little earlier on about like we stop living when we stop playing. It's
Yes.
like, you know, continue to choose to do things that feel playful. Even if you're 80 years old, like still choosing to do things that are fun and not get stuck in the robotic life that, you know, it's a potential on this earth. If you can get stuck in that, that feels like dying to me. That doesn't feel like living. And I feel really passionate about always exploring new things. Like I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be exploring human design or, you know, doing the courses that I'm doing, but I'm finding fulfillment in those in my own unique way, probably totally different to the person next to me that's doing that course. And that's lighting me up at the moment, but it's probably not going to be my forever. And something actually, and I'm probably going back to a subject here, but like through that painting is, and what I've just learned about myself, so this is authentically understanding myself, is that I most thrive in environments where I can see transformation. And so painting, like I started painting 2 years ago and I was like, never did I think that I would be an artist or that I was creative or anything like that. But actually it's not about what the end product is. It's about a transformation. So it starts as a blank canvas and then it ends up something, like whether it's amazing to look at or not. And so I think that like, it just links it back into that, like discovering that authentic self. Like I didn't know that that aspect of me is where I can thrive in life. So if I'm looking for areas or hobbies that bring me joy and make me feel like I'm still in play, they would typically, now I would be looking for ones that give me a transformational thing at the end of it, because that's what actually gives me fulfillment in life. And that's exciting to know that, right?
Yeah. Do you know what I've just like dropped in, what's dropped in and that I have become clear on when you were talking that out? There's a feeling inside of me that I kind of almost sabotage myself in creative aspects of like painting and stuff. And because like I'm having all the drop-ins and memories of my life, when I've been really good at things, I have, my experience, I've felt a pressure to do something with it, right? So I actually am really good at photography. I don't put that out to people, but I did a full course, and I, especially when my kids were little, I was obsessed with taking photos of them and creation, right? And then as soon as people were like, you're going to make a business out of it, you're going to do this out of it, I dug my heels in and went, I stopped taking photos. I was just like that obligation and pressure to what was just so beautiful and fulfilling for me, it took all the fun out of it. So observing me when I'm really good at something, I tend to go, if I feel pressure, I go, I'm not doing it. And then when in the past, if people have told me you can't do that, so network marketing, guys, how many times do you go, it doesn't work, you can't be successful? And the more people would tell me, because my last business was, the more people would tell me you never make money and not do it, I go, I'm gonna do it. And I did. I was super successful. I traveled the world with it. It paid all of our bills for how many years, because my residual income literally paid for everything. And I'm like, that was from that drive of, so this is where I get to know myself. This is where I get to know my bubble, right? I ain't doing anything for anyone, but I will do things for myself. So where I find my spark is that I look at what I'm trying to achieve with my children or what they need, and I will become that so that I can say, look, this is what's possible. And this is where, again, there's no right or wrong, but find that hunger for self. When I became a mum, this switched for me, because I wouldn't do things for myself. I was just like, I was so satisfied. You ask my husband, literally, I'm so satisfied that I really don't ask for much at all in any way. But I want more for my children. So I'm like, okay, well, or if they show me that they want more, I'll be like, okay, well, who do we need to become? Because I'm not going to tell you something that I'm not going to do. And so I'll get out, do it, show you it's possible, and then be like, empower you to do the same. So interesting. I don't know what I just figured out with that, but it's just more learning of self, of like when you have conscious conversations, right? And this is what we're just letting you guys in on our conversations that we would have anyway. But when you have these conversations, you learn more, you connect dots, things drop in, and you're like, wow, that's actually, I can resonate with that. That's me, or that's not me, or
and so
whatever.
another thing that I have learned that I could actually hear and what you were talking about then is we're both manifesting generators, and so manifesting generators get inspired ideas, but they also move on really quickly. So it can be really hard to go, this is what I'm doing with my life, and stick to it. It's like we're just not designed that way. And so some of the suggestions that have been coming through is like, because it's, and again, it's that sacral, right? Getting the idea, putting it into action, but actually having a support of people, or whatever that looks like for whatever business you choose for it to be, or a project or a passion, that they actually then fulfill it once you've done the things, so that you can move on to what
working
next.
Because I have 73,000 ideas that come through that I
but
don't
it's
take
like,
all the way.
It's not to make it wrong. It's actually to find out what's the missing link to make that really successful. Is actually, I don't want to be bogged down, because it becomes obligation, right? I move on to things really quickly, and that can be, some people will say it's ADHD, but actually the more I'm learning about this manifesting generator, it's a genius of that human design, in which that they actually get the inspired vision and they're able to bring it in. But who says we're to do it all? And so if we can do that, and build foundations on a whole heap of different creations, it's like, but without knowing that, you can think, oh, I never finish anything, or I never, but actually you can create a way that supports that, so that it can be fulfilled, but you don't have to be obligated to fulfill it to its wholeness.
And I mean, there's so many different, so you and I are very similar in that way. We bring through huge potentials, right?
Yeah.
Whatever anyone thinks is not possible, we're going to be like, we're going to make it happen, right? However, there are people in every step from inspiration to physically manifesting. And it's not to say we can't and we haven't already done all of it, but when you find your niche and who you are and the parts of it that light you up, there's stages, right? So we might do this stage because that's our genius, and then there's other people that are like, well, we love to do, anyone that loves this, we like to do the book work or the theory, or we're like, you come and talk to us because we don't like doing that stuff. Network. But there are people that are like, we love doing the documentation and the legalities of that. And there's so that's where in business, till I am black and blue, I will swear, who are we trying to prove what to? In our workshop, I'm like, I observe and go, you are really good at that. You are really good at that. You are really good at that. You love that, because that's equally important to me, is that people love what they're doing and they're filling their days with things that feel satisfying to them, right? So I'm like, you don't have to, gone are the days to me in my reality where I will see people doing mundane shit that never has them growth, that never has inspiration in a factory. That is soul death to me. But I get excited because there is not one of us that is the same, right? So we, at the moment in our business, I am in full encouragement. Our kids are home, so one is homeschooling, one is looking for what's next, and they both want to be part of the family business. So I'm like, don't come into the family business and try to regurgitate what's already happening. If you come in with your own bubble of, this is who I am, and this is what I can contribute. This is what I contribute. But that's the empowerment of owning that, and lucky for them. And I will say, lucky for them, I am very encouraging of what does that look like, and you can't make mistakes to me. Say it, we'll try it on. If it doesn't work, cool. Good on you for trying it. That's what I believe family should be, which is not what everyone has experienced, and it's not what I have experienced through my life, but that's been perfect too, right? Because it's made me super solid, which is where that hunger comes from. Tell me what I can't do and I'll fucking tell you that I can do it, right? That there's nothing wrong with that because that is also... I'm just going to poke you with a whole heap of can't do's and just watch you go. But I will know underneath it, that's all a little bit of play. I'll be like, I am playing in your game. But I do believe the polarity of that is that we can still achieve great things with love and encouragement and empowerment. It doesn't have to be struggle all the time. it's no right or wrong, but I think I would prefer to choose to empower my children in a way that is like, don't get me wrong, it's still get your butt out of bed, it's still direct, but it's like, because I know what you're capable of, and because I love you, and because you deserve to feel fulfilled and amazing and awesome about yourself.
I have just been so transported as you've been talking into I don't even know. The word business is not really probably accurate for what I'm seeing, but I'm literally seeing like a film crew following you around in how you do business in the workshop. Because could you imagine how freaking epic workplaces could be if they were able to, but how do people do that if they are not privy to it? Like, you could literally have a TV series on how you create environments to thrive, because it's just not out there, right? Like, I'm like, oh my God, I would tune into that and be like, how's she doing it? Oh wow, like that would be.
And it's through trial and error, because I absolutely do not have all the answers, but I know I'll get them.
Yeah.
And it's just being present and being observing and trying something and going, whoop, that didn't work. Okay, I want to understand your mentality, what makes you tick, which is getting inside of people's bubble and going, oh, there's the goal.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that spark. Your energy just changed when you talked about doing this, right? It's making what traditional business has made not important.
Yeah.
And it's putting it to the priority list.
Yeah.
Like, uttermost fundamental for me, and I believe that our workers would absolutely validate this. Family first. I'm literally, we've said you and I both the same. I care about their family, and I care about their mental health and their vitality and their health and all of the things. If you legitimately care about the people in your workplace or in your life, everyone in your life, then there's a level of trust that's authentically, it's connected.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Because our bodies are genius, and our bodies are so onto whether there's something off or whether someone's got your back.
Yeah.
You just know, right? So when people know that you actually give a shit and you actually care and you want them there and you think that they have something to contribute, that in itself lights people up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are still working on a lot of things. A theme that did come up when we went out for lunch and that I was pondering is that, what is it? Because I think we tapped on it just then. I'm trying to figure out. So for me, it's when people tell me I can't do something, right? But if you tell me I'm really good at something, I'm not. So for me, that's what it is. And what I believe there is that there will be like a similarity for all of us of like an undercurrent, like a spark, right? Yes, there can be different reflections off that, but I do feel like humanity there's one spark that kind of lights us all up, and then we go from there. And I'm not quite sure what that is yet.
Nothing's kind of coming through to me, and I don't think I typically work off if somebody says I can't do something, then it encourages me to do it. I'm actually trying to find like what that is for me that gives me drive and gives me passion.
Well, you said it before we came on here, which is, like the becoming for your kids, right? And you said it in a video that you did the other day. It's like you do lots of things, but your priority is being a mum and being a conscious parent. So there must be something in that is your spark. And you've worked a long time on that. You said that you kind of for a while put it at the bottom of the list, but now it's absolutely you didn't ever live it at the bottom, but to speak
I hid
it out.
I hid it from people because we can all agree that we have been living in a society where both parents work, and so me choosing that with utmost stubbornness. My mother-in-law actually, when my kids were maybe around 2 years old, and I had a gap between both of them, but she was, bringing over like job leaflets, like to push me out to like be like, you've got to get out and work now. And I was just like, look, we're just either not going to get along or you're going to accept that that's not what I'm going to be doing here. And so and still to this day, like I still have, but you know, in a society where a lot, you know, like things cost a lot of money, right? But I am 100% and always have been, and this has always been my communication with anybody that pushes up against it. I'm happy to live if I need to live in a box because this is my value. However, I just wouldn't go out there and start that conversation with everybody because I know that there's so much resistance within society around that. And I've just had to really learn to be solid with myself so that I can handle that. And I think that's what the difference is now in me showing up and communicating that is what I'm here to do. And I just believe that we're not all here to do the same things. We're not all born into reality with the same contracts and what we're here to do individually for the collective. And I just know that my role, one of my roles on this planet is to definitely seed this value back in a society that has lost it, and for reasons that I absolutely have compassion around. Like, things cost money, and you know, we do what we have to do. I personally would have gone without many things in order to fulfill this. It's just my drive, it's just my passion. And I think that just it's an inner knowing. Like, that's what it's just an inner knowing. Like, before I had kids, I was like, I'm going to be the work. Like, I literally remember visualizing myself in a high rise in the city working for a lawyer or being a lawyer.
Wow,
yeah,
that is
like
so far from what I know of you.
and I was like, I loved the business suits and the look of that, and it was probably all for worth, like what I was envisioning. And I applied for like getting into the, you know, the lawyers kind of, what's it called? Well, anyway, getting into law. My path just didn't eventuate that way. But that was like a thought of like what I would have wanted to do in this world. And it's so far from what I ended up being, because when I decided to have kids, I was like, after saying for so long that I'm just going to be a worker and I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mum, you know, preference told my husband, because he grew up typically in a home where the mum was at home. And I was like, I am not doing that. I'm not losing my independence. And that comes from a lot of wounding. And I think that was driven from that. But as soon as I gave birth to my kids, I was like, there's no frigging way you're going to get me out in that workforce. Like, and I am stubborn, and I have, you know, like stuck to that. And so, you know, it's been amazing because now my children are at school and I have a little bit more freedom to, you know, pour into this. But it does come with challenges, you know, like I will never, ever, ever choose anything that takes me away from that value. And that sometimes can come to as a hindrance to me. Although I think I'm just really learning how to create in a way that it's not a hindrance and it can succeed still. But yeah, I do find that sometimes I can get in the tantrum around how I get to step into something that, you know, brings me a lot of passion, as well as having that high value in family. And sometimes sometimes I can not choose those things that bring me fulfillment and passion, that are individual choices, if they coincide with the value of my home. And I'm still trying to learn how it's possible, but I know it's possible. I just haven't fully found that for myself yet. Yeah.
So when you were talking, what was dropping in about what I was posing, the question I was posing about what is that spark in every single person? And I believe the answer, like really simply, is relationships. And we think of relationships just being like with a partner or our family or whatever. But one of the most important things to me is my relationships with every single person that I meet, right? Like I can meet someone for 5 minutes and I care about that relationship, right? I don't care what they think of me. I just care about that relationship. And not only with people, but I have a relationship with my home. I have a relationship, like we want a bigger property. I'm already forming a relationship with the land that I want in our next property, because I actually give a shit about aligning with the land. Like, I get excited about that. We can have a relationship with our business. I often tune into our business and be like, what's your highest potential? Like, what is, what can I see that, like, like I talk to, sounds batshit crazy, but I talk to energy, like, and I have a relationship with it.
I just think it's so intelligent, like not batshit crazy, but that's really an intelligent way to look at everything. And I think you're absolutely on it. It is to do with relationships. It's relationships with the planet, with animals, with how we are feeding our own bodies and what we're giving and receiving in nature, as well in our
food.
home.
Yeah.
And then bringing it all the way to, like, having relationships with humans is only like one aspect of so many different relationships, but they all are reflected by how we have a relationship with ourselves.
Everything external is, and that's the key of what you just said then. And I know that this is, for a lot of people that haven't listened to this concept before, it's really large, but everything outside of us is a reflection of our internal world. So when you have good relationships with everything in your reality, then you're healing and you're cultivating those internal relationships with yourself. So if you can learn to love everyone, doesn't mean you have to, really big deciding factor here, you don't have to have negative toxic people or things in close to your reality, right, where they're hurting you and affecting you, but you can love things or understand things or get curious about things from a distance, right? That's still a relationship. So I have people in my life, or not in my life anymore, that they're in my reality, but I keep them at a distance, and I feel peaceful at that, because yes, we still have a relationship, and yes, I can stay really tuned into who I know their potential is and love that. But whilst I haven't experienced it, I'm going to love you from a distance, and that to me feels like we've got a good relationship right now. Because it's serving both parties, right? So it can look a magnitude of different ways, but if the relationship is the point that we are tuning in to, then I think, oh my God, that breeds empowerment for self. And that is, if I go back to the example that I gave about, like, say I'm out with my son, I'm more emphasizing, and what's important to me is that relationship with my son, than what we're talking about, than who's around, than like what emotions coming up. Like, I care about that relationship at the priority. And that's why in our workshop, as much as my husband would not like to admit this, but he will validate it, he can go out and ask the boys to do something and they won't do it. And if I go out and I ask them one time, they will get it done. And that's because the relationships, I've worked on relationships a lot longer and emphasized this and prioritized this a lot longer than him. He's amazing and he's getting better and better, but full compassion to that masculine environment that has been for so long. They've not known that it's safe to actually prioritize those things. So this is a new concept, and he's with me all the way, but of course we're going to have to tease our way through it.
Well, there's growth. Anything that we choose to do, and I think that we're disillusioned to think that we can go choose something new and not have growth. Like, you know, if you're choosing art and you've never sat down with a paintbrush before, you're going to go through growth. There's going to be moments of discomfort, but through that you learn your style and your way and your authentic way to do it. And so I think that, like, it's to have compassion for any moment that you're not amazing at doing something, because it's going to take growth to get there. But the end result, or the transformation at the end of it, is that fulfillment, right? It's like we're about to go do a painting course together, and she's an amazing artist and very much a good mix of spirituality with modern art, I guess. And she says, like, your painting, your canvas is your altar. Like, it's create a relationship with your altar. and then allow it. So it's like, it's all about creating that relationship with it and then leaning into it and seeing what you create.
And that was the transformation that I got to witness when I sat down and painted this week, was because in the past, like I signed up to do this workshop and I've kind of gone, what am I doing? Because I get emotional when I paint or do anything creative, because from childhood, like I've always had this story that I'm not creative. Like that's just not my thing. Right. And I've never really owned that I'm good at it in any way, shape or form. So last night I was like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this and I'm just going to see how it feels. And when there was no attachment to it.
Yeah.
And I actually just put paint on the thing and I'm like, I actually really love that. And my husband came home and he was like, that looks really good. And I'm like, I just didn't care. I didn't make it if it was amazing or if it wasn't amazing. I just loved the experience of it, right? And so that's the relationship I have with painting now. You might win some, you might lose some. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's the detachment of it, right? And actually, Izzy Ivy, if anybody is listening to this, she does not normally do in-person workshops. She actually stopped doing them and did them online so that she could travel. But she's reopened one for the Sunshine Coast next weekend. And I was like, oh, I'm on it straight away. But when I did go there for my very first one, I had the same space, and it was an emotional roller coaster doing it with her. And especially because it's actual, so you're not painting something that is like, so you're not putting a vase in front of you and painting that. It literally is a full surrender piece of, I don't know what's going to come out, but there's actually a potency in that I explored. It was like, shit, am I going to get this wrong? But actually, if you're not trying to copy something, then no one can look at it and go, that doesn't look like a pot plant, because you're not drawing a pot plant. You can actually never get it wrong. It's like her classes are the perfect example of completely being detached to what's coming through and just allow the channel to actually just create. You can put it in the back of your closet. You don't have to put it out on display.
If it is an expression of you and it's a mess and you're a mess, just learn to love the mess, right? I'm like, if I get a messy painting, I can laugh and go, that's because I'm messy sometimes and I'm imperfect. And I freaking love that because I don't know anyone that's perfect, and I don't know anyone that's not messy sometimes.
And this is the sacral, right? It's like, it's that sexual energy, that passionate energy, and it isn't always perfect. It is messy sometimes, and it's all of that. And I think that when, again, this is your bubble, like when you come to find love for that within, like that aspect of self, that it can be a mess, then you are going to enjoy it a hell of a lot more than the discomfort if you're not like comfortable with that part of yourself yet. And just to put it out there, I have never created a painting since, and I paint, fairly regularly, where I haven't gone on an emotional, but that's the transformation, right? Leaning into it, not knowing, going through the roller coaster. Like the amount of perfectionism that I've worked on now feels really clear. But in the beginning, where I was like, oh, the colors aren't blending properly, like the discomfort of that. But that was only reflecting the discomfort in me wanting to show up perfectly in my life as well. So creativity can actually very much connect you in with, and it's a different way. Instead of co-creating it with a person, you're choosing your altar, you're choosing your canvas and going, okay, what discomfort is this emotionally going to take me through? Because what I have realized from doing it over and over again is that you go through that discomfort and then all of a sudden the transformation at the end, and you're like, actually, that was awesome. Whether you like the painting or not, you feel liberated afterwards.
Yeah.
And so it's a really cool way to explore your inner world without co-creating that with other people.
Wow.
Which is fun.
I had the most epic image that I found that I was like, check this out, Hayley, because she was painting with me. She's like, wow, that's amazing. It was like sacred geometry and this mushroom, and I started with a pencil.
I want to see this.
Oh my god, it ain't nothing like that. But I'm like laughing because I'm like, this is how I do life. I have this vision, right? And it's this epic vision, and it's learning to be okay with where you're at. Like, doesn't mean that one day I can't paint that exact amazing image, but you know what, that vision is probably going to change 30,000 times that I won't even want to do that image anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's just accepting where you're at. And this is another teachings that I'm particularly honing in on my son with that, because what I've experienced or what I've been observing is that he thinks that he has to be 10 steps ahead. When I'm like, honey, people just love you for where you're at. Like, he's 14 and he thinks he has to be 25, I swear. But I'm like, at 14, he still blows people's mind. But I'm like, just be there.
Yeah.
Because when the vulnerability for him, I don't think so, but the vulnerability of being where he's at and not knowing it all at 14, I can't even say that without laughing, but it's real for him, is the opportunity for people to go, oh, I can support you with that. Oh, I know the answer, let me help. But if you're like beating your chest going, I know it, and pretending like you do know because, you know, compensating for an insecurity, then people don't have an in to actually support you to get to where you're claiming to be.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, people just love you for where you're at. You don't have to be 10 steps ahead.
I feel like God, like, he's so lucky to be able to receive that wisdom at 14 years old and be able to take that on, because I'm only recognizing in myself just recently, it almost feels like I'm like, was carrying this weight on my shoulders that I like had to be somewhere, like, you know, like what you're talking about. And it's like literally just having the epiphany in the last week that like I want to get online and I want to do videos to share who I am, but like just who I am in my day to day. So if I'm doing a recording today and I feel inspired to share something about this recording or an epiphany that I had, like jumping online and being like, oh my God, like I had this epiphany today, and it just feels so easy and effortless to do that, as opposed to thinking I have to do something because that's going to, you know, really be in alignment with what I'm here to, like, I'm just so many things in so many different moments. And I think I've held back from sharing myself because I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't want the obligation, and I didn't want this and I didn't want that, all because I thought that I was meant to be showing something that was just an idea and expectation.
Well, what that comes down to too is, again, that spark of relationships being the most important thing, except we're talking about relationship with self. So if he has a really good relationship between his own masculine and feminine internally, then he will know that he doesn't need to do that, right? That's prioritizing. And I will always say this, 100% of the time we prioritize our relationship with self first, and then outside of that goes to the people that we're with and our homes and outside of that, our businesses, everything else. But first it is relationship with self, because if we have a really, really tight, amazing, loyal, committed, divine relationship with self, we don't go into those toxic behaviors of believing we have to be more than that we are, or further along that we are at, right? Like, I'm so excited today we got the spark of what is actually truly will create hunger for what's next, right? So we got on here, we started this, and we didn't even know what we're going to talk about, and I don't know if anyone else got anything, but I got a lot from this.
I think, look, I actually feel like I'm going to walk away with this and now reflect all the different roles that I play in my life. What is the relationship that brings me passion, that makes me actually drive for growth and all of the things, because we're going to go through that anyway. Specifically for a couple of my businesses that I have, like, and creating, like, what is that relationship out there? What is it in here? And then being like fueled by that. Like, that's really excited me. And I feel like there's just pieces that are still gonna land. That's my dog letting us know we are on time.
One more thing though, what you said, I started with the solar plexus being what we're talking about, and you were talking about the sacral. Now, sacral is very much about relationships too, which is what we talked into. So the relationship, that sexual energy, that's chemistry between our own masculine and feminine, which what's the result of that is empowerment. right? We just
fully.
got to that
Yeah.
today. So make the clicks. Okay, Lola is telling us we are at time. Thank you so much for joining us today. What a powerful chat conversation.
That was really cool.
And we hope that you guys got as much as we did out of this. So much love.
Till next time.
Bye. Thank you for joining us in another episode of Mandala. We want to acknowledge your contribution in the co-creation of our new evolved world.
Sending you all so much love. And until next time, remember, you are the creator.